So hello.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
It's been rainy
I know.
and lightning.
Yeah, little
and
rumbles
thunder.
here and there. So
We've had some pretty big storms
yeah.
this week. So
Oh,
pretty,
I
and
know.
there's
All
been a
of
lot of
Florida.
things going on. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of I think there's been a lot of flooding maybe, and pretty exciting storms that have been coming through. I think we got another one coming through here.
Oh my goodness, yes.
So if you hear thunder or if you see lightning, we might be jumping, but it's okay.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. Stay with us. Don't leave.
Keep things exciting.
That's right. Keeps it exciting.
Oh.
So again, we are doing the Lord's Prayer.
Mm-hmm.
Almost said the Lord's Supper. The Lord's Prayer, and we've gone through a few explanations,
Yeah.
and this is our, I guess, third part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've gone through adoration. Just talking about how God is our Father and
Mm-hmm.
recognizing that, and then consecration. Just giving over ourselves to His kingdom and His will.
Yeah.
And so today we're talking about supplication.
Yeah.
And so I will go ahead and read the Lord's Prayer up until the point that we're talking about.
Yeah.
And we'll go from there. So in Matthew chapter 6,
Yeah.
verse 9, we start with, Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Give us this day our daily bread. And that's that section we're talking about today. Give us this day our daily bread. Yep.
There's so much meaning behind that.
Oh yes, so
Absolutely.
much to unpack in there.
So how does that how does that part be part of supplication?
So supplication is basically just asking God for the things that we need, especially in the context talking to God. What do we need to fulfill His
Mm-hmm.
will and His
Mm-hmm.
purposes?
Yeah.
And we know that God is a provider.
Yes,
and,
absolutely.
He provided for some 3 million Israelites in the Exodus.
I know.
So I think He can provide for us.
Yeah. They wandered for 40 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. They got 1 year for 1 day of their rebellion.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so kind of, they got in a cycle, didn't they?
A little bit.
Yeah. And even though they were wandering that 40 years, you would think they would have stayed faithful. They, did a valley and hill, kind of mountaintop thing.
Oh, yeah.
But the first thing we want to talk about is our daily bread.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think of bread,
You think the actual
bread,
Yeah.
we get a loaf of bread. We don't have to make our bread. Many people love to make bread, which I think it's amazing.
Some homemade bread is really
Yeah, it's
Oh my
really
goodness.
good. I know. But this is more of an unleavened bread.
Mm-hmm.
Because leavened bread is equates to sin.
Mm.
Yeah. Unleavened bread is
Yeah.
Yeah,
Without.
there's without.
Yeah.
It's without leaven that makes it rise. So, what's so interesting about it, and we can look at Exodus 16:4. They did for 40 years, but God provided the manna, and they were fussing. They were, you're gonna, you got us out of Egypt. Now you're gonna just let us die in the desert,
Yeah.
and poor me,
Yeah.
right? Poor me.
beautiful me.
Poor me. We're gonna die of hunger. And so the Lord told Moses this, and this is in Exodus chapter 16. I am going to rain bread from heaven for you. Bread from heaven.
Yeah.
And that was actually the manna. And he said, let me look at some other verses, a part of this. Moses said to them, let's see, I think up above it says, it is the bread the Lord has given you to eat. Because you know what? It fell. After the dew in the morning, it dried up, and guess what was left? Flakes of manna.
Yeah.
And they were like, what is this all over the place, And so it says right here, when the layer dew evaporated, there were fine flakes on the desert surface, as fine as frost on the ground.
Yeah.
And it's funny, we were just talking about that today in our morning Bible study, because it was like a white coriander. They're very small, kind of like a little coriander seed.
Oh.
Kind of like that. I don't know, it's kind of, I guess, that small.
Yeah.
But anyway, they were white, and he described it as flakes in this particular version. And so Moses said to them, no one is to let any of it remain until morning. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Only pick what you're supposed to need for that day. That's it.
Right. And we talked about, like, later in Matthew, you know, he talks about how we don't have to worry about tomorrow, you know, and like God provides these things. So he provided for them in the desert,
Right.
And he was like, okay, only pick those that you need for today. Don't worry about tomorrow. I'm going to provide it.
Absolutely.
And he keeps doing that even without not just the manna, but just with everything that we need. He's there for us every day.
One of the things points I was going to bring out, they, you know, with the manna, because I think it's kind of funny. They boiled it. They he says, bake what you want, boil what you want, and set aside everything else that is left over because it was going to go away.
Yeah.
You know, because they did collect more than they were supposed to one time, and it got worms and it went rotten. So collect for what you need today. That's his instructions. You were talking about not just. He doesn't just provide our needs, our physical needs, which that was a physical need.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But he has provided, I think about the lily.
Yes.
Is that, lily, I say the lily of the valley. This version talks about it being the wildflowers.
Yes.
You know? And I hope that we can slide this picture in, because yesterday morning, I think it was, I came out and guess what it was on the ground. It was in the grass. It was just one little lily.
Aww.
Just, here I am. I'm beautiful today. And it just popped up. I mean, like overnight. It was just amazing. And it tells us in his word. So let me go back to Matthew 6, because I have to read this part, because this is how God is. He just says it like it is. He said, and why worry about clothes? Observe how the wildflowers of the field grow. They don't labor or spin thread, yet I tell you that not even Solomon in all of his splendor was adorned by one of these. And so if that's how God clothes the grass of the field, meaning all those beautiful flowers that come up, I mean, we do. Florida does plant wildflowers on the side of the road, and they're absolutely gorgeous, and it always reminds me it's my birthday time coming up, because those, you know, it's about that time they start popping up.
Yeah.
But these lilies, we did not plant them. No. That one little one that came up, it was not planted. I didn't plant it.
The seed got carried there somehow.
I know, but God brought it up for just an encouragement on that day.
Yeah.
But he says that that's how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today and thrown into the furnace tomorrow. I think about the fire, you know, the sun coming down and beating on it, you know.
Oh yeah.
Or if you pick it, it's going to die, right? Won't he do much more for you? Won't he do much more for us, right? And he says, therefore, don't worry about tomorrow, because tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own.
Yeah.
So, you know, sometimes days are more troublesome than others.
Yes.
And we have more needs. But, you know, like you said, we talk about, you know, not just a physical need. That is not our physical need. It's just, it's part of his creation, what he created for us to enjoy.
Yes, yes.
So now we want to talk about how that falls into a spiritual.
Yeah. Yeah, because, you know, our daily bread, you know, specifically bread, you know, we have Jesus referenced as the bread of life.
Yeah.
And I think you had that verse, right?
Yeah, I do. And it says, truly I tell you, anyone who believes has eternal life. I am the bread of life. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's always, I know you mistakenly said Lord's Supper earlier. You're about to say that, but that's a good, you know, comparison. You know, we have the bread that we eat that is his body, and it just reminds us of that bread of life that Jesus was.
Didn't he talk about that when we did, when he was talking to his disciples? It just kind of hit me, so I may be wrong.
Yeah,
so correct me if I'm wrong. Is when he says, take this is, you know, he used the symbolism of bread.
Yes.
You know, that's his life he broke. Yeah. You know, not a bone, his life he broke.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
With
his
the
life
bread.
was broken for us to be able to be saved.
Right, and he used a symbolism of the bread.
Yeah.
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 So how cool how it goes, and it just intertwines, right?
Yeah. Yeah, the whole Bible, like there's always all of these analogies and examples and whatever other word you want to say, but there's
Yeah.
so many connections within the Bible, and it's always cool to just be diving deep, and when you get the word on your heart, like we were talking about earlier, like you can just connect it, like as you're reading, you're like, okay, I remember reading that somewhere else, and
yes,
it's so cool.
Yeah. And thank goodness we have Google, because you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you get like a few words.
I know.
Of it.
Sometimes I use the Bible app and I don't have it right. Sometimes I go to the search engine, and then if I put it in, it brings it up. So then I go back to the Bible and read it,
Yes.
But I mean, amazing, because when oh, I remember that word. I can only think of one word or a phrase, and it brings it up, and that's kind of cool.
That has been definitely the best part
of my life.
Google search.
I know. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? I didn't finish that. You want to read? Are you? Do you have that, John? If you would read the rest of that, because he tells about, we talked about manna coming from heaven, and now this kind of answers Jesus's response to that.
Yeah, yeah. So John 6 verse 49. After he said that he's the bread of life, he says, "Your ancestors ate the manna in the wilderness, and they died. This is the bread that comes down from heaven, so that anyone may eat of it and not die." So he's talking about his body. Because he said so believing in him is
the bread of life.
Yes.
He said it. I am.
Yes. So he said that I am the living bread that came down from heaven. If anyone eats of this bread, he will live forever. The bread that I will give for the life of the world is my flesh. So yes,
oh,
like
I said, love it.
Both came down from heaven, and it was just, the manna was just to sustain them for a little bit. Jesus came down from heaven and is the sustainer for ever.
Eternity.
Exactly.
Eternity. Yeah.
Exactly.
Because these bodies are flesh. They are going to fade away.
Yes.
Get old. And go away. And we have to have faith and belief in Jesus Christ to have that eternal life, to be in heaven with him.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Heaven! We'll be going to heaven where the manna came from.
Yeah, right? Be going.
You think we'll have manna in heaven? I don't know.
I think so. I mean, they talk about
might not need
the
it.
feasting table.
Oh, yeah.
And everything.
Okay.
So maybe it won't be a thing of like, maybe we don't need it because we won't necessarily be hungry, but it'll just be an enjoyment.
Yeah, because we will be glorifying God in the midst of all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, today is supplication. We ask him to give us this day our daily bread, and we can ask for anything.
Yeah.
But we should ask within God's will.
Right.
And we know that God's going to provide no matter what, because he loves his children.
Yeah.
And the lilies of the valley aren't as important as we are to him.
That's right.
And he clothes them beautifully.
I know. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good. I like that. And I learned, what's so cool about this is that we study and prepare. Mm-hmm. And although a lot of these verses kind of came up to me, it hit me. You know what I mean? It's like,
yes.
Bread from heaven. Oh, okay.
I see what you're doing there, God.
I know. I see what you did. And this is the other thing that's amazing. From the beginning to the end is inspired by God. In my mind, and I think in most people that believe in the Bible, it's how can you do this and then do that? Old Testament to the New Testament.
Yes.
It just mashes together and makes all sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So anyway, I think that's a good time.
Yeah.
We're done. We're done with the bread of life. Well, we're not done with the bread of life, but we're.
Oh yeah, no, definitely not.
We are. I hope you understood the similarities, the understanding of manna, and Jesus actually being our manna.
Yeah.
From heaven.
Yeah, being our eternal manna.
That's right. Exactly.
So next time we'll talk over a different part of the Lord's Prayer.
Yeah.
And we'll keep going with that.
That's right. So we'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.